At 12th place, Severus Snape, the poorest rich guy on this list. Let's be honest, Snape didn't grow up wealthy. He's a half-blood from Spinner's End, and his vibe is less old money and more, I own exactly one black cloak, and it's been through several wars. But if we're ranking richest Slytherins by what they realistically had access to later in life, Snape climbs much higher than people assume. He becomes a long-term Hogwarts professor, steady pay, lifetime housing, meals covered, head of Slytherin House, and briefly headmaster, which means institutional power, resources, and unrestricted access to Hogwarts itself. On top of that, he's one of the most skilled potion makers of his era, a profession where private commissions, rare ingredients, and discreet noseless funding absolutely exist. Add in his prince family ties through his mother, Death Eater connections, and his value as an intelligence asset, and suddenly Snape isn't poor. He's just aggressively uninterested in spending. Snape's real wealth, though, is leverage, information, fear, and the ability to walk into a room and make everyone shut up for free. Gold? Maybe not. Control? Absolutely. Sliding into 11th, Horace Slughorn, the Slytherin who monetized friendship. Slughorn is rich the way landlords are rich, comfortable, cushioned, and never technically responsible. He surrounds himself with luxury, fine furniture, rare ingredients, crystallized pineapple, and somehow always lands on his feet, usually someone else's. His real fortune isn't in a vault, it's in people. The Slug Club is a carefully curated investment portfolio of future ministers, celebrities, prodigies, and outrageously well-connected families. Slughorn doesn't ask for money, he lets gratitude compound. Need a favor? He knows someone. Need protection? He taught someone. Need a place to vanish for a year? He's already packed. And let's not forget, this is the got rich out of luck kind of professor. Slughorn is the wizard who perfected Felix Felicis, liquid luck itself. The man literally brewed success. If there's a #1 supplier of probability manipulation in the wizarding world, it's him. That's why he survives Voldemort's rise, dodges the war, and still returns to Hogwarts with zero consequences and excellent tea. Slughorn doesn't look powerful. He outsources power, which frankly is peak Slytherin behavior. At 10th place, Theodore Nott, the Slytherin you missed because he never needed screen time. If you only watched the movies, you might be thinking, who? Exactly. Theodore Nott is rich in the way rich people prefer to be, invisible. In the books, Nott is quiet, observant, and clearly intelligent. His father is a confirmed Death Eater, part of Voldemort's inner circle, which already places the Nott family in the category of old money with dark investments. Unlike the Malfoys, they don't posture, they don't threaten, they don't panic. That's confidence built on generational wealth. Theodore keeps his head down during Hogwarts, never overplaying his hand, never aligning too loudly. And post-war, the Nott family survives without public collapse, trials, or financial ruin, which strongly suggests assets buried deep enough to outlive Voldemort. Nott isn't flashy rich, he's we've survived worse regimes kind of rich, and that's the kind that lasts. Sliding into 9th, Blaise Zabini, the Slytherin who inherited a fortune and a very healthy fear of marriage. If you only watched the films, you might remember Blaise briefly in Deathly Hallows, hanging out in the Room of Requirement right before Goyle sets the entire place on fire. Book fans know him better, cold, dismissive, and completely uninterested in Voldemort's Where's My Nose drama. That's because Blaise doesn't need anyone. His mother is famously beautiful, famously wealthy, and famously widowed multiple times. Each husband leaves her richer than the last. No arrests, no trials, just funerals and upgraded living conditions. By the time Blaise is at Hogwarts, that fortune is securely his. What makes Zabini dangerous isn't ambition, it's detachment. He doesn't choose sides because his money isn't tied to the Ministry, Voldemort, or blood politics. While other Slytherins scramble, Blaise watches, unbothered, judging. He's not loud rich, he's I'll be fine regardless kind of rich, which honestly might be the safest kind. At 8th place, Andromeda Tonks. If you only watched the movies, you barely saw her, and that's a crime. Andromeda was born a black, which immediately places her in one of the richest, oldest pureblood families in wizarding history. Vaults, properties, heirlooms, the works. Then she did the unthinkable. She married a Muggle-born, got disowned, and left the family. Dramatic? Yeah. Financially catastrophic? Not necessarily. By the time she leaves, Andromeda is already educated, capable, and crucially married into stability. The Tonks family isn't flashy, but they're solid, and Andromeda clearly retains resources enough to live comfortably and later raise Teddy Lupin alone after losing both Tonks and Lupin. Her wealth isn't loud, it's resilient. She survives survives the war, outlives the Black family chaos, and ends up owning what most Slytherins never manage: freedom. She doesn't chase power, she cashed out emotionally and still landed rich. Sliding into 7th, Regulus Black, the richest Slytherin who never got to spend it. Regulus was born into extreme privilege. The Black family wealth isn't theoretical, it's confirmed. Massive vaults, ancestral artifacts, and ownership of Grimmauld Place itself. As Sirius's younger brother, Regulus inherits the side of the family that stayed loyal to tradition and money. Unlike Sirius, Regulus plays the role perfectly. Pure blood values, Slytherin pride, Death Eater initiation. He has access to elite circles, dark patronage, and all the benefits that come with Voldemort's favor. Then he realizes the cost. Regulus turns against Voldemort, orchestrates one of the earliest and smartest acts of resistance, and dies young, before inheriting the full extent of Black wealth. But make no mistake, had he lived, Regulus would have been one of the most powerful heirs in the wizarding world. Instead, his fortune becomes symbolic. All that gold, all that legacy spent buying one choice that mattered. At 6th place, Abraxas Malfoy. Yes, Lucius wanted this spot, but no, he didn't earn it. Let's clear this up. When people think rich Malfoy, they picture Lucius. Wrong generation. The real architect of the Malfoy fortune is Abraxas Malfoy, Lucius's father, and the man who turned old pure-blood wealth into political and financial dominance. Abraxas wasn't flashy, he was strategic. He built deep ties with the ministry, influenced legislation, and ensured the Malfoy name stayed untouchable, regardless of who was in power. This is the era when the Malfoys transitioned from old money to weaponized money. By the time Lucius inherits anything, the groundwork is already done. Massive vaults, priceless artifacts, political immunity, and a lifestyle funded by generations of quiet manipulation. Lucius didn't create the empire. He inherited the throne and added decor. Abraxas is why the Malfoys could openly fund Voldemort, lose a war, and still go home to a chandeliered manor like nothing happened. At 5th place, Dolores Umbridge. Somehow rich. Nobody's happy about it. Let's be honest, nobody wanted Dolores on this list, not even Slytherin. But wealth doesn't care about likability. Umbridge comes from a deeply uncomfortable place of bureaucratic power. She climbs the ministry ladder through loyalty, cruelty, and paperwork, accumulating salary, perks, and influence for years. She doesn't need family vaults, she has state-backed authority. As senior undersecretary and later high inquisitor, Umbridge controls the budgets, enforces fines, seizes property, and weaponizes law against anyone she dislikes. That kind of position quietly generates wealth, especially when ethics have already left the building. She also inherits money from her pure-blood mother's side, which she clings to obsessively while erasing any part of her past that doesn't fit her fantasy. Pink cardigans, gold office decor, absolute moral bankruptcy. She's rich because systems reward monsters who smile politely while ruining lives. And yes, calling her a toad is unfair. Toads deserve better. At 4th place, Bellatrix Lestrange, born into obscene wealth and determined to spend it on chaos. Bellatrix starts life with everything. As a member of the Black family, she inherits one of the oldest and richest pure-blood fortunes in Britain. Vaults, properties, dark heirlooms, and generational gold that could fund several quiet lifetimes. Then she marries into the Lestrange family and somehow upgrades. 2 elite bloodlines, 2 massive vaults, unlimited resources. And she chooses Voldemort. Bellatrix doesn't just follow the Dark Lord, she finances him. Safe houses, bribes, operations, dark artifacts, recovery efforts after his fall. That money comes from somewhere, and it's very often Bellatrix. The Lestrange Vault is treated like Voldemort's emergency fund, guarded so heavily that Gringotts brings out dragons just in case. This is not reckless spending, this is war budgeting. And yet, despite bankrolling terror across Britain, Bellatrix never invests in comfort, strategy, or self-preservation. No backup plan, no luxury, just devotion. She could fund a Dark Lord's return, but apparently not a decent nose. Commitment is expensive. At 3rd place, we present you Snape's mum. Yes, she ranks this high. Eileen Prince wasn't just Severus Snape's mum, she was born into the Prince family, an old established pure blood line with real money, real education, and serious magical pedigree. This wasn't flashy Malfoy wealth, it was quiet, respectable. We own things you're not allowed to ask about wealth. The Princes produced skilled potion makers and highly trained witches, and Eileen herself was talented enough to be sorted into Slytherin. On paper, her life should have been comfortable. Inheritance, status, and a future secured by family fortune. Then she married Tobias Snape. That single decision effectively removed her from access to prince wealth. Either through disinheritance, pride, or social fallout, she ends up in Spinner's End, far from the resources she was born into. The money still existed, it just wasn't reaching her anymore. But here's the thing, the fortune didn't vanish, it went dormant. And what did survive was the prince legacy, passed straight into Severus Snape: intelligence, discipline, and elite magical talent. Eileen Prince had gold once. What she passed down instead reshaped the wizarding world. And honestly, that's the most expensive kind of inheritance. At second place, Tom Riddle, the Slytherin who got rich by spamming Avada Kedavra. Tom Riddle starts with nothing. No vault, no inheritance, no last name worth money, and somehow ends up controlling everyone else's. As Voldemort, he doesn't just lead Death Eaters, he runs a subscription-based terror economy. Wealthy pureblood families bankroll him voluntarily out of fear, loyalty, or ambition. Malfoy gold, Lestrange vaults, black artifacts, all temporarily placed at his disposal. Well, spoiler, nothing ever comes back. Every Avada Kedavra he casts doesn't just remove an enemy, it opens access. Inheritance chains break, properties change hands, dark artifacts become available. Voldemort gets rich through forced redistribution. If you die without heirs, congratulations, your stuff just joined the Dark Lord's inventory. He also controls the ministry from the inside, redirecting funds, resources, and protection where he wants. Voldemort doesn't own money, he decides who's allowed to keep it. He isn't rich in gold, he's rich in fear, leverage, and silence, which historically pays extremely well. At first place, Salazar Slytherin. Yes, that's Slytherin, the original I built this place guy. Before Gringotts, before vault numbers, before anyone trusted goblins with compound interest, Salazar Slytherin was already rich in the most unfair way possible. He owned the blueprint. He helped claim Hogwarts land, one of the most magically saturated locations in Britain, and then layered it with enchantments so advanced they survived 1,000 years without maintenance. Secret chambers, ancient wards, a basilisk-powered contingency plan. That's not subtle wealth, that's infrastructure. Salazar didn't come from a famous bloodline. There's no record of parents, ancestors, or noble houses behind him, which matters because everything that is famous came after. He didn't inherit legacy, he became it. Parseltongue, self-crafted wand, experimental dark magic centuries ahead of regulation, and an ideology that turned magic matters into generational obsession. Speaking of generations, your next lesson at Stickman Hogwarts is ready. All 12 richest wizarding families in Harry Potter explained. Click now before Voldemort finds his nose and starts asking where the money went.